So to start, I want to share with you the 2011 Green Brand Study, which we conduct annually with two of our WPP partners, Landor Associates and Pension Berland, and also with SD Environmental Partners. We launched this year's data, just 2 days ago to coincide with this event, so this is hot off the presses. By way of background, Cohn & Wolfe is a communications and public relations agency. We work with a variety of clients across technology, corporate, consumer, and healthcare markets. We've been conducting the Green Brand Study since 2006, and what that is that's BT, or as you may know it, that would be before Twitter. We survey more than 9,000 consumers across 8 countries and test more than 350 brands. We do this in order to answer a few fundamental questions that help us shape our understanding of the opportunity. The first is, how have consumer attitudes towards green brands, products, and services changed from previous years, and how do they vary country to country? We also ask, what consumer challenges must companies overcome in the green space? Do consumer perceptions vary on how different industries operate across and address sustainability? What types of green products are consumers currently buying, and in which categories do we anticipate they will be buying in the coming year? And finally, what brands in each country do consumers perceive to be the most green, and why? So first I'm going to share a few trends that are not necessarily new, but that we've seen continue over the course of a couple of years. And then I'm also going to address some of the emerging new ideas that we're seeing. So similar to our 2010 findings, more than 63% of consumers in every country we surveyed say that they want to purchase from environmentally friendly companies. In fact, the 63% is Germany, and that's the lowest of all the countries. Look at the numbers in the developing countries. 93% in Brazil, 96% in India, and 97% of consumers in China say that it's important that the brands they buy from are environmentally friendly. Here's another trend that you've heard a few times this week. Consumers want to buy from sustainable companies and say that they plan to spend more money on green products in the coming year. Of course, we all know that price is kind of this giant elephant, and it's in everybody's way. And as marketers, the consumers express that we tend to make green still feel like a luxury, like as if it's something that only people who can afford to save the planet are allowed to participate in. What's astonishing, though, is that while in the US and in developed countries, we're not willing to pay that premium, the expressed willingness to spend more in the developing countries is quite astonishing. So this is sort of a reverse chart, and what it tells you is that 96% of Chinese consumers, 82% of Brazilian consumers, and 92% of Indian consumers say they're willing to spend between 10 and 30% more because a product is green. So that's a few of the trends that are sort of continuing over the course of the years. And now let's look at a few that are different for 2011. In 5 of the 8 countries that we surveyed, consumers think the environment is on the wrong track. I see this as a very positive statistic, a very positive move, because they'd been putting the economy ahead of the environment for the last few years, kind of rightly so. And now there's some sense that the economy is back on track, there's more of a comfort level, and they can again start to focus attention on the environmental issues that are so critically important to us. In Brazil and India, the consumers there are particularly concerned. They're the highest of the countries we surveyed. 63 and 61% say the environment is on the wrong track in those, well, all over the world, but from those countries. So in past years, the past probably 3 years, energy use has been the top number 1 or second concern for consumers. But what's different this year is the increase in the amount of people who saw energy use as the highest concern. This is over things like water, global ocean health, climate change, a whole list of categories, and they have increased the number of people who think that energy use is our biggest issue. But interestingly, in Australia and the US, consumers think energy is doing the best job of protecting the environment. That's the industry that they credit with innovation and the most activity towards making a difference in helping our environment. In the UK and France, they select retail as the top protector, and in UK, that's specifically grocery, which gives you some indication of the power of brands there. And technology is emerging as the industry best protecting our developing nations and Germany. So people seem to understand the intrinsic value of the in me, on me, around me categories, and everybody knows that's kind of the skincare, the things that we put on our skin and into our bodies. So the consumers understand now that there's benefits not just about the environment, but those are healthier, they're fewer chemicals, they're kind of better for our babies, all of those things. They've understood and received those messages. And now they're looking at the higher ticket items and trying to find ways to also understand both the environmental and the personal benefits that those categories can provide. So we saw a significant increase in the number of consumers who say they expect to purchase an electric or hybrid vehicle, a green vehicle, instead of a gas-guzzling one, or who plan to seek out energy-efficient technology solutions that will help them both save money and feel good about the job that they're doing to protect the environment. And then here's another interesting one. Compared to 2006, when consumers credited Subway for being the greenest brand, in large part because of its green-lined logo. Consumers have actually gotten really smart about which brands are authentic and which ones are just exceptional brands that are working their way towards being more sustainable. So the top 4 brands on the list this year, Seventh Generation, Whole Foods, Tom's of Maine, Burt's Bees, are what we're calling born green brands. And the 5th one, Trader Joe's, gets this amazing halo effect from the way it interacts with consumers. The in-store experience, the employee behavior within the store, the newsletter that it sends out. When we asked employees why they think of Trader Joe's as green, they said, it's a hippie brand, it's hippie. And we all know that's code for sustainability. Yeah. It's actually really interesting because consumers perceive Trader Joe's to be green because of the behavior, and yet they put Walmart, which arguably would be one of the most progressive sustainable brands within this whole survey, they put that at number 20. So this is what kind of keeps our jobs interesting. How do you make sure consumers are receiving the message of what you're doing authentically as a sustainable brand? There's also a really large gap between the top 5 and the next 6, and it's 6 because Starbucks and Microsoft actually tied for number 10. But this suggests, again, that the born greens are really recognized for who they are and given that real credit for being sort of authentically born green, and that the other ones are there, but not necessarily considered as green. So, what does all this mean for all of you? Well, let me go back one page. It means that being green isn't necessarily translating yet into brand value, yet. And we know, based on the years of research and the years we've been doing this research, that the trends around green attitudes, perceptions, values are continuing to increase. So how do we get there, and what's the timeline for getting there? Well, I told you about BT. It's now AT after Twitter. And the changes that we're facing were unimaginable even just a few years ago. We have governments and societies being shaped by social media. We have real-time communication and engagement. And for those of you who have been here, I'm sure you could not forget Erin from Teens Turning Green, who kind of rocked my world. Let me just remind you of a few of her best quotes, of which there were many. She told us that millennials have more power as consumers than as voters. Just to kind of rub that in, she then reminded us that they're going to inherit $40 billion. She then it was a discomfort moment for me when she said, and don't worry, don't forget, I can make or break your brand in seconds. And then importantly for us as communication and marketing professionals, she let us know that it's no longer a matter of making choices about which channels we want to be in, paid, earned, owned, online, offline, it's everywhere. She said, you have to be everywhere because that's where we are. That's all good. Well, fine. Not for somebody born in 1970, but I get it. But we also keep hearing about this gap, this sort of empty space between what consumers say they're going to do and what they actually do, what their behavior is. And we need to figure out how to kind of bridge those ideas. So we believe, based on the work that we've been doing, that the answer lies somewhere in the center, and that the born green brands and the traditional brands need to figure out how they can teach each other a little bit more effectively. We need the greenest of the brands to continue to lead us, teach us about their values, while also expanding their message to address some of those intrinsic consumer benefits that they're craving: the health, the comfort, the convenience, the cost savings. And we need the mainstream brands not to forsake those consumers in the gap, but to demonstrate what a brand of tomorrow really can be. So if you think about what some of the things we've seen this week are campaigns that you know about already, you think about Starbucks taking its greatest vulnerability, its cups, and making that into its greatest opportunity. Or you think about the presentation we had yesterday from the CEO of Panera Bread, who understood that the brand value is not in providing food to people who can afford it only, but that it can bring back a sense of community and can help to rehumanizing our society. These are the brands that are heading in the direction consumers say they want us to head, and these are the brands that are finding ways to meet in the middle. So, I will now pretend to be a hockey fan. We're all here to play on, and so this quote from Wayne Gretzky: a good hockey player plays where the puck is, a great hockey player plays where the puck is going to be. Well, we've adapted that a little bit for this occasion, and the way we want to present it is: a traditional brand plays where the market is, a sustainable brand plays where the market will be. So our full study results, that was a pretty brief overview, are available on our website, and my colleague Sandy and I will be in this room at 3:30 to present a little bit more detail on each of the top 10, going into a deeper dive on what their communication strategies and messages have been. So I hope you'll join us for that conversation. Thank you very much.